everyone. Welcome to another brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. Today is Friday. I'm almost in a mood to close my day, but then I realized that I have a discussion with Sujatha, right? I expect this conversation to be one of the best conversations I'll have till now. We share a lot of things, obviously. So, Sujatha, firstly, thank you for taking your time out today to do this podcast with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Anurag. I think it's an honor to be recognized and to be featured on this, pretty popular podcast. So it's truly my honor and a privilege for me.
Possibly you're the only person who told me that this is a popular podcast because we don't think as of yet. We are still work in progress. So, quick introduction who Sujatha is. Sujatha is VP of Information Management and Analytics for Delta Community Credit Union, spent almost 25 years in technology. Obviously, we share a common interest in leveraging technology to drive business outcomes. Right? That's what her passion has been. She's a CPA by trade. After that, she moved from technology, moved to this country with a master's, and finally moving on to her technology career. Right, Sujata. Obviously, I did a horrible job in doing an introduction of yours. If you want to add something, please feel free.
Yeah, early on in my journey in India, Anurag, I had learned the power of technology because I was a chartered accountant, a CPA, the equivalent of a CPA in the US. And that taught me a lot about how this was, in those days when technology was being applied to business. You heard about ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning System, CRM, etc. So it was a golden age in that regard, how technology was being applied to create efficiencies and automation within companies and applying my knowledge within finance to that, using technology to amplify the use of technology was thrilling to me. And I saw the value there. So when I came to the US and pursued a degree in information systems, it really took me on a different trajectory altogether. And I'm here because of that initial spark of interest. And thereafter, I specialized in CRM systems for a while. I was a CRM consultant. In those days, in the mid to late 90s, there was a system called Clarify, and that it was a CRM system, and that's where I kind of honed my skills, right, in terms of putting the customer at the center of everything. And since then, that has been the through line of my career. That is something that stuck with me. And later on in my experience with Auto Trader, where I was had a part in crafting BI strategy, it really that experience early in my life, I was able to you know, connect the different parts of my journey. And then thereafter, working in Equifax and really honing my craft, getting more experience with truly understanding how to create data products that drive better outcomes, just like you said, better business outcomes for our customers. It really taught me a different, brought in a different perspective. And then, also got exposed to thinking about how to bring in, a singular view of the customer through master data management systems, etc. That was also a deco. Then, the highlight of my career has been my tenure at Delta Community, where I've really had the privilege of leading our data and analytics success. And recently, a few years ago, I also pursued a doctorate in business. It's truly a cherry on top of the icing, I would say, in terms of really helping me take my knowledge and my experience to the next level. So I was able to apply that within the context of Delta Community by, uh, using my skills at crafting a strategy for Delta that would help us really use our strong connection with purpose, right? We are all about credit unions and Delta community in particular. We are all about people helping people. So every insight, every model, every governance process that we were able to put in place has always been about serving our members, helping them feel seen, understood, and supported throughout their financial journeys so that we can help them really, drive better financial prosperity and resilience for them.
Understand. Yeah. So that's very well-rounded answer. Uh, I mean, as a leader, right? So my next question is, as a leader, how do you balance the need for technical expertise? Because that's like ingrained into you, right? Technical expertise with broader strategic goals of the credit union, because both are very two different things. I mean, not every business problem can be translated to a technology problem and can be solved, because it's a different ball game altogether. So how do you balance both of them, and what is your leadership philosophy in that?
Yeah, so I see myself as that bridge between my team that has deep technical expertise, right? Whether it is governance or creating a BI report or creating a predictive model, that's what they specialize in. But for me, it is about taking our enterprise priorities that I understand from our senior leadership team and being able to break that down for my team to help them understand the context. How are we applying this? How does it connect back to our credit union mission? Because I believe when my team truly is able to connect their day-to-day deliverables, their day-to-day job back to the overall larger purpose, it brings something else, right? As they say in French, je ne sais quoi, something that you can't define, something that makes everything so much more meaningful. And I truly believe that that's my role. I think I have a good vision that has been honed from my deep experience, my education, and my belief in our larger purpose. But what I try to do is to bring clarity to that vision to my team so that they can connect it back to what they do on a day-to-day basis, and they feel empowered to succeed. So really, it is that servant leadership philosophy. Give them the means to do what they need to do and step out of the way. Don't try to gatekeep, and don't try to, what do you call, micromanage. I truly believe that if they get the bigger picture, uh, they will succeed in their paths. And we together, we can succeed together.
Lessons learned, right? I mean, I'm a huge fan of talking about lessons learned. So looking back, what was the most valuable lesson, right, you learned from your PhD program? Because you did a PhD program that was very different, and can you apply those learnings in your current role?
Absolutely. So my PhD was in business administration. I didn't
Mhm.
have an MBA, and my thinking was, if I could really truly go back to the literature, really understand business administration, how to help businesses succeed in a deeper way by connecting with the research, standing on top of all the research that has been, published in the past, use that to truly get my own worldview of how to drive an analytic strategy that will help my company succeed. That truly was my reason, the raison d'etre, as they say, behind why I went why I wanted to do a PhD. What it taught me was that it really helped me ask the right questions. That I think that's what the experience with doing that PhD for me was. It also taught me a lot of how to play that balancing act between my day job, and I was working full time as I did this PhD. So it wasn't like I was just focusing on research. It was always about how can I apply this research to my day job. So for me, also another thing it taught me was how to balance, how to be more disciplined, how to bring rigor into my day to day, and most importantly, it taught me how the importance. It drove home the importance of having a long term strategy, but also identifying how to break that up into small, wins, short-term wins that people could connect with. Um, and it truly has shaped my leadership philosophy and my abilities. And it reinforces to me, I'm not doing this for the sake of doing it. I'm not in love with data and analytics or passionate about it for the sake of it. It's about what it can achieve for our company, how it can help us solve real problems, how it can really build credibility for our financial institution.
Yeah. So that really talks about how do you apply or implement what you learned. Uh, I mean, you're widely recognized for implementing that single source or single view of a member, or consumer, customer, whatever you say, right? So I call it as member 360. Right? That's
Yes.
what essentially my term for it is. So why do you think this is so transformative for Delta community right now? And how do you and why do you think member 360 is a table stakes for any credit union now?
Absolutely. I think it is table stakes for any financial institution because only when you truly understand your members at a deep level can you offer products, experiences, and services that will engender trust. At the end of the day, a financial institution, what is it about? It's about engendering trust. Your member has to have deep abiding trust in you. Otherwise they're not going to put their place their financial assets with you, right? So to me what this helps, this member 360 as you put it, brings, it looks at that member much more holistically. It brings together not just their products and services that they have with you, but it what it does is it amplifies your view of who this member is. What is it that they deeply desire? What is it that they're looking for in their lives, and how can you as a financial institution enable that, right? So that to me is the magic of member 360, and being able to connect with the member at a much deeper level. Just not personalized offers, but personalized actions, and help them, avoid any kind of financial pitfalls.
And I think, it's very important to understand about this basic concept. Unless you use data for decisioning, I mean, I sound like a broken record because I myself do analytics for the last decade. Now, talking about the same thing in every single episode, it sounds like a broken record. So it's better that it comes from you and not from me, right? Uh, I'm also a huge fan of, again, what you talked about is impact, right? So I believe if any analytics engagement or project is not aligned towards outcome or typical impact. I mean, I know the credit union world is different, but my world from previous life was either EBIT, I mean, delivering impact over EBIT, or I mean, let's put for now only EBIT, right? We can talk about multiple KPIs, but that was my life world, deliver impact on EBIT. But credit unions are different, right? So how do you measure success, or I would say effectiveness, right, of any analytics engagement at your credit union?
So in terms of success, I would say that, at the bottom of it, I think it goes back to what value you're able to create, right? Um, my how we started the business intelligence journey at Delta Community Credit Union was to be able to serve our internal members. So I'm not directly interfacing with members, but I'm interfacing with departments within the company that help our members, whether it is to understand their risk profile or it is to understand what products and services would appeal to them, et cetera, right? So for me, the first measure of success was, am I able to drive a data-driven the adoption of these data-driven approaches? Are my customers, the lending department or the operations units, Are they able to use our data effectively? Do they trust the data that is situated within our data warehouse? And are they able to use it to truly drive better decision making for themselves, whether it is at the strategic level, the tactical level, or the operational level? So those were, to me, the founding pillars of how I measured success was adoption. How do they adopt the systems we had where we allowing them to trust the data? I mean, did they trust the data to be able to leverage it? Were they able to indirectly, what I was measuring also was, were they able to use this to drive better programs for our members? Were they
Yeah.
able to create better products? Were they able to create better services? Were they able to increase their member penetration with the products and services we had? Are they able to reduce attrition? All these things are a way of validating whether the data is meaningful to them, right? The other thing is making sure that when our members uh, provide their, put their trust in you and use your services and products, they also give you something really valuable, their data. So making sure that we had good practices in working with the IT department to make sure we're protecting the data. Are we using the data responsibly? Or we almost have a fiduciary duty in terms of how we manage that data. So although we want to use it and leverage it to help them, help themselves, we also want to make sure that we are complying with regulatory standards, we're protecting sensitive data. So this was a big piece of measuring success as well.
Yeah.
So three things, right? I would boil it down to making sure that we were driving adoption and we were able to generate value from that adoption. And you indirectly know you're doing that if they trust the data and the data is high quality. So making sure that we had good processes to manage data quality and engender even further trust. And finally, because we have that fiduciary duty to protecting our members' data, making sure that we had good security practices. And of course, that was led more by our IT and InfoSec teams, but working with them to make sure that we were implementing policies appropriate.
Fair enough. Uh, Now again, talking about, I mean, adoption, there are two things to it. One is the actual business adopting it, and second, your end consumers actually reaping benefits out of
Mhm.
it. So, what we spoke earlier, you had incredible success, increasing the adoption of the data warehouse user base, right? From like a
Mhm.
5 to like a 150. That's a huge jump, right? So, how did you get the buy-in from different departments? Because I work with bunch of credit unions, a lot of them struggle, right? I mean, you can build a fancy data warehouse, you can put data over there, you can build strategies, you can create a roadmap, select use cases, execute on one by one, but getting alignment from your marketing to lending to operations, it's not easy, right? Because it's new for them, at least for credit unions, right? So how did you get buy-in, and you want to share any advice for my other listeners who want to implement a data program in place to seek buy-in from multiple stakeholders?
Yeah, I think that the important thing is to focus on outcomes. We spoke about this earlier. Focus on what it can do for your customer. Don't talk about the technology and overwhelm them. Our HR recruiters in our company always tease me. When I joined, business intelligence was still a very new word for our company, for a data community. And when you said that, it was almost a showstopper because people were kind of overwhelmed. They didn't know what it meant. So for me, it was by really listening to the customers, working with them to understand where I can practically show the value of this, right? So we partnered with them. We partnered with our lending department. Lending department, we used to spend a lot of time just bringing in data and spreadsheets, doing a lot of integration work to just produce reports for credit committee and other practices, governance practices that we have. And I showed them how we could make that efficient, right? We brought this in, we automated those processes. Immediately, they saw the value. And the other thing was, partnering with them to help them help themselves. So not being this, bottleneck. you have to teach people to become your to co-create with you. So for me, it was all about investing in training, storytelling, helping them get proficiency with the tools that we had. Instead of gatekeeping the data, we democratized it. So sometimes they'd come to us and they wouldn't have good requirements. How do you build a purpose data store when you don't know what it is that they want to analyze, what type of KPIs they have? So the important thing here was to allow them, to give them a sandbox to play around, so make it iterative, partner with them to help them understand how to use the tools, but and stay there, holding hands, but don't take over and try to manage them. So I feel that, that has been hugely successful for us, that model, in terms of really becoming partners in this rather than trying to kind of monopolize the conversation, doing things iteratively and, showing the art of the possible, working with them to iteratively build, towards that success. And now we have a very vibrant self-service community. Our departments all have their own little pods where they create their own reports, etc. So we get involved and we do more complex things, but we let the company, the various functions manage their own little, needs, little or big, whatever it is, And I think that has been a very huge recipe for the success that we've had. We have almost, 70% of our employees using our tools today. So it's not nowhere, even when we started, it was like five, but now we are like around 700. Of course, various levels of usage, right? There are power
Yeah,
analysts, there are
yeah,
people that just consume the reports, etc.
yeah.
But
I mean, so if I were to summarize everything, so I use a concept called citizen data scientist,
Mhm.
right? So that's essentially what we're trying to drive, not data scientist, but at least citizen analyst, right? That
Totally.
everyone has access to data, be it pulling reports to doing having self-service analytics that's available with them, right? So this is not very common, by the way. I'm talking about credit unions, even of your size, it's not very common. I mean, a lot of people are still in that journey of setting up this program, and it will take some time, right? So that's tremendous. I would say kudos to you that that you've set this up. This
Yeah.
is great. Moving on to a different segment essentially, right? So you came to this country long back. Now, obviously, life of all of us who've come to this country starting from scratch has not been easy, right? I mean, I'm very vocal about my struggles because they matter. Similarly, your struggles do matter,
Mhm.
and I respect a lot. It's not has been easy. If you were to give some pieces of advice, right, to aspiring young women leaders, right? Both who came to the country, or I mean, two parts. One is the people who came to the country, like you and me. If you want to share some advice, one, and second to aspiring leaders in credit unions, right? So, what would be your piece of advice that you want to share to these both distinct group of people?
I think for women, um, whether you're native to a place or you come from a different country, I think the struggle is real. I still think that we have a lot, the world has to progress a lot more. I can't believe that, just 50 years ago, women couldn't vote in this country. So, each of these breakthroughs are significant. And it'll take time for us to really see that next evolution, I would say. But to me, what has, I can only speak from my own journey, and I can tell you that for me, it is what has been a continuous thread through my life has been my quest for learning. I have a deep thirst and insatiable, I would say, appetite for learning. Whether it is formal learning, which I have a lot of in my life, as you know, I've just talked about doing my PhD. Since then, I got two certifications, one data management professional, and I also got a one from Informs on analytics, certified analytics practitioner. But so for me, learning and really investing time to learn my domain, learn about financial institutions, learn about technology, about leadership is a huge investment of my personal time. I'm passionate about it, and I think that's one way women can continue to challenge the, you know, the uh, challenge the status quo. And I think that what you need to do is to be able to own your own voice and vision. You need to be able to take that learning and be able to see for yourself where the opportunities are. Try to seek opportunities, be proactive. And I think women are good at this because we're very good about trust and relationships. We have powerful strengths in terms of our ability to foresee things, to empathize, to collaborate. Women are great collaborators. Obviously it's a broad generalization, but I feel comfortable generalizing because I do think women are extremely good at really partnering and collaborating. So if you pair that with this continuous learning, you can really shape the future and you can really drive your own, take control of your future. The other thing is, one thing that I found valuable for me is to give back to the community. So that's why, I'm part of Informs, which is a vast analytics community. I'm on the local chapter. I work with DAMA. DAMA is a data management, you know, organization worldwide. So I work with them. I work with TAG, technology founded organization, which is big in Georgia and Atlanta. So I take part in networking with other people. I seek mentors. I help other people. By helping other people, you gain a lot of meaning to your life. So I have mentored other young women. So I think this is how you try to get that sense of who you are and how you play a role, in defining your place in your career journey. So that's what I would tell a woman, whether she's from a different country or she's from United States. It's about understanding who you are and really connecting your strengths with your passion.
Yeah, so this was great. This was amazing, right? One of the very, I would say, honest interviews ever. So thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you spending this half an hour with us. So again, heartfelt thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anurag. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.